I start, sir?
कुछ गलत किया है मैंने? Should I stop sharing? What should I do to come back to the main
Sir,
main platform आने के लिए क्या करूं मैं?
stop sharing.
एक सेकंड सर
Resume new share participants.
Start, sir?
कुछ गलत किया है मैंने? Should I stop sharing? What should I do to come back to the main main platform आने के लिए क्या करूं मैं?
Stop sharing.
गड़ियार सर.
हाँ मैडम
Stop share.
एक सेकंड मैडम
हाँ ओके
कर लिया, स्टॉप शेयर कर लिया.
हाँ हाँ
समझा था फिर बंद करूँ हाँ अब कर सकते सर अपन स्टार्ट.
हाँ ठीक है ना, आई एम रेडी.
Start, madam, with the introduction.
yes yes
A very good afternoon to all the dear participants in the online course in BA Part 1, Same 1 English Literature, jointly organized by RS Mundle, Dharampet Arts and Commerce College, Mahila Mahavidyalaya Nagpur and Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, in collaboration with Board of Studies, RTM Nagpur University Nagpur. On the second day of this certificate course, we have among us the subject expert, Dr. Kapil Singhal. Sir has 24 years of teaching experience. He has published 12 papers in various national and international journals. Sir has edited 2 books. He has been invited at national and international conferences and seminars. He is a member of Syllabus Designing Committee, RTM Nagpur University Nagpur. 3 students are awarded PhD under his guidance and 2 are working. On behalf of the host colleges, I welcome you, sir, and request you to conduct the session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for introducing me. And I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I'll share my screen first and get myself connected directly with the students now. Well, so am I able to share my screen?
yes sir
Yeah.
it is visible.
Okay. So good morning, one and all. As we all know, in the present situation, something which was considered to be an additional source of teaching has become the basic requirement, and the online classes are being conducted. The students who have newly been admitted to the first year course of Nagpur University, they haven't attended any offline class. And I don't know about the other faculty, but in arts faculty, we have changed the syllabus, particularly for compulsory English and English literature. So it's one of the utmost requirement for the teachers and the students to get connected through whatever way it is possible. And so the initiative taken by the 3 colleges is worth appreciating. Dear students, you have already done your first poem, and I'm supposed to teach you the 3rd poem from the poetry section, that is Sonnet to Sir Philip Sidney's Soul. The writer of the poem, the poet, is Henry Constable. And before moving on to the text of the poem, I would like you to give some some background regarding the sonnet. What is sonnet? Its different forms, because that is what you have to study when it comes to the study of literature. It's not like compulsory English where the text is enough, where you can go through the text and the questions will be limited to whatever is there in your textbook. Here, you should know a bit of background to the form of literature that you would be studying, and considering it, the history and meaning of sonnet is something which is very important, as most of the poems prescribed in the first semester are from the form of poetry known as sonnet. Sonnet, the birthplace of this poetry of sonnet, no one has been able to determine it, but Sicily and Provence are considered to be the two sources, are the two cities, which it is considered that it is from here that it had started. Sicily is the largest island in the Mediterranean Sea, and it is one of the autonomous regions of Italy. And similarly, Provence is a region which comes under the administration of France. So it is considered that either Sicily or Provence. No one is sure about it. And when it comes to the history of English literature, we meet sonnet for the first time in the second half of the 13th century, which was brought by the two British English politicians from Italy. So this is the first introduction of sonnet into English literature. From the one that has come to literature is from Italian, and that is why the sonnet that we study in English literature is divided into two broad sections, into two main types, which are Italian sonnet and English sonnet. Originally, it was a short poem. Even now, it is a short poem. It is a poem of 14 lines. That it's too short, deals with only one emotion, with one topic. And originally, it was a short poem, but it was recited in accompaniment of a musical instrument. So in the accompaniment of music, not musical instrument, and the word has been derived from the Italian word sonetto. The origin of the word sonnet, it has been derived from the Italian word sonetto, which means a sound or a little sound or strain. So sonnet's origin of sonnet, no one is very sure about it, but when it comes to English literature, sonnet came into English literature from Italy, and in the second half of the 13th century, and after that it has become a part and parcel of English poetry, particularly the Elizabethan poets. We will see a few of them in the coming slides, and they have greatly contributed to sonnet in English literature. The origin in English literature is actually in the Elizabethan age. So it has come into English from Italy. That is the one thing you have to remember. And the word sonnet is a poem of 14 lines, a short poem, and the word has been derived from an Italian word sonetto, which means sound or little sound or strain. Now, originally it was used by by Petrarch, the great poet, and it was Petrarchian sonnet, which was followed by the Italian writers, the Italian, in the world of Italian literature, they had adopted it from Petrarch. And as I've already told you, short poem of 14 lines. Now the Italian sonnet consists of two parts. The first part is the stanza of 8 lines, which is known as octave, and it has a rhyme scheme of ABBA, ABBA. And the second part is a stanza of 6 lines, which has CDE, which has rhyme scheme of CDE, CDE. They have a liberty to have different rhymes as well in when it comes to set. So it is either CDE, CDE, or CDE, DCE, or DCD, DCD, whatever it is. The only thing you should remember that it is divided into two parts. The Italian sonnet, the first is octave, ABBA, ABBA. The second is sestet, and that is how the structure of Italian sonnet is. Now, how it is different from the English sonnet. Now, English sonnet, sonnet was introduced into England, as I've already told you, in the first half of 16th century by Sir Thomas Watt and Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey. The two politicians, the two people from royal family who had visited Italy for some diplomatic purpose, for some political purpose, for some administrative purpose. And it were they who came in contact with sonnet and Italy and the form they had brought into England. The two English politicians who had returned from their diplomatic mission in Italy. But when it was brought into England, the English poet, the English writers, though they followed the length of sonnet, which was of 14 lines, that was the only thing they followed. They changed the form, and octave and sestet and the rhyme scheme, which was applied by the Italian writers, that the English writers didn't follow. And the sonnet in England was divided into 3 quatrains. Now, quatrain is a stanza of 4 lines. So that was divided into the stanza of 4 lines each. They wrote sonnet in 3 quatrains, and it ended with a couplet. And the sonnet, the English sonnet, now Italian sonnet has first stanza of 8 lines, octave, ABBA, ABBA, and second stanza of 6 lines, sestet. There are variety of rhyme schemes for sestet. But the English sonnet has 4 quatrains, the 3 stanzas of 4 lines each, and it ends with a couplet. Now, this is a difference between the structure of English sonnet and Italian sonnet. So the English writers wrote sonnets in 3 quatrains, followed by a couplet, and the rhyme scheme. Now, different writers have adopted different rhyme scheme. Now, the 2 great sonneteers in English literature, Shakespeare and Spenser, both have their own rhyme schemes. And though it was started by Sir Thomas Watt, it was Shakespeare, in the writing of Shakespeare, that it gained that popularity, and hence it is known as Shakespearean sonnet. So the English sonnet is also known as Shakespearean sonnet, and the rhyme scheme followed in English sonnet is AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF. The first quatrain, AB, AB, the stanza of first 4 lines, the stanza of next 4 lines, CD, CD, the stanza, then EF, EF, and it ends with a couplet GG. So this is the rhyme scheme which is followed by Shakespeare. But later Spenser, he evolved a new variety of rhyme, and he followed his rhymes were interlinked. The different quatrains, the rhyming was interlinked, and AB, AB, then BC, BC, CD, CD, EE. So the English sonnet had different rhyming schemes by different writers, but the structure remained the same. That was 3 quatrains and a couplet, as against the one that we had in Italian sonnet, which has an octave and a sestet. Now, this is a difference between Italian sonnet and English sonnet. So now, why this is important for you to understand? Because the poem that we would be studying, the poem Sonnet to Sir Philip Sidney's Soul. Now, this has got a typical rhyming scheme again, which consists a mixture, a combination of a rhyming scheme of Italian sonnet and English sonnet. That is why. That is one of the typical quality of this poem, and that is what you have to remember. So that is why because you should know the structure of Italian sonnet and structure of English sonnet. So not going back to the origin of sonnet, as I've already told you, I'll just go back to the structure of two different kind of sonnets which are popular in English literature. One is Italian sonnet, the other one is English sonnet. In Italian sonnet, we have an octave and a sestet. Octave is a stanza of 8 lines, and the rhyming scheme which is followed for octave is ABBA, ABBA. For the 2 quatrains, it can be divided into 2 quatrains, and similarly there are 2 tercets in sestet, the stanza of 3 lines each. You can divide it that way, but generally sestet is a stanza of 6 lines. And there are different varieties of rhyme scheme which were adopted by the Italian writers for sestet. So this is how we have 8 and 6 there. First stanza of 8 lines, second stanza of 6 lines for Italian sonnet, 3 stanzas of 4 lines each, and ending with a couplet is for the English sonnet. So this is how the two sonnets differ in their structure. Now, sonnet. I've told you about the sonnet, and it is addressed to Sir Philip Sidney. To Sir Philip Sidney's soul. That is more important here. It is not addressed to Sir Philip Sidney, but to his soul. And right in the title of the sonnet, we find that the poet has brought in the theme of spiritualism. The theme of spiritualism is very dominant in this poem. Generally, this was not the theme of sonnets. The other sonnets which were written by the other well-known English writers, they had it had the theme of love. It was addressed to Lady Love, but in this sonnet, it is addressed to the soul of Sir Philip Sidney. To the soul of Sir Philip Sidney. So, sonnet to Sir Philip Sidney's soul. Now, composed by Henry Constable, and now let me give you some background of Sir Philip Sidney. He was a man from a royal family, an English poet, a courtier, a scholar, a soldier, and one of the most prominent figure of the Elizabethan age. He is considered to be one of the 3 great sonneteers of the age, along with Shakespeare and Spenser. He's next to, of course, he's next to both of them, but he's third among the rank when it comes to the sonneteers of English literature. However, Milton is there, but Milton has different theme. Everything is different when it comes to Milton. Milton has even experimented with the form of sonnet. Some of his sonnets were addressed to God and all that. But when it comes to the Elizabethan sonnet, it is Shakespeare, Spenser, and Sidney, and all 3 of them had a common theme. They had addressed their sonnets to a person they loved. Now, the important works of Sidney, they are Astrophel and Stella. Now, Astrophel and Stella is the collection of sonnets, collection of 108 sonnets by Sir Philip Sidney. And more than it, he is known for his critical essay, a critical work, The Defense of Poetry, which is now known as an apology for poetry, for which this poem was written as a written as a prologue to that one, as a to that essay of Sir Philip Sidney, as a prefix to an apology to poetry. So, Astrophel and Stella is a collection of sonnets of Sidney. Those sonnets of Sidney are addressed to a lady, Penelope, who was engaged to Sidney, who was engaged to marry Sidney right in their childhood, but later on, because of the change in priorities, change of circumstances, she married Sir Lord Rich, and but it was she who has inspired this sonnets, Astrophel and Stella from Sir Philip Sidney. Though these sonnets are dedicated to his wife, remember, he has dedicated this sonnet. Philip Sidney has dedicated these sonnets to his wife, the lady whom he married, but they are addressed to Penelope, who did not marry Sidney, and instead of marrying Sidney, she married Lord Rich. Now, about not much literature of Sidney is available with us. In fact, he didn't write much literature, but whatever little he had written, through that he has established himself as one of the important writers of English literature. Now, what was the reason? The reason was that he died at the young age of 31. It was in the Battle of Zutphen in the Netherlands, Holland, where this battle was fought, and fighting for the Protestant cause against the Spanish. He was fighting for the Netherlands. He was a Protestant against the Spanish, the Catholics and the Protestant. It was a war. It was a war between them, and it was in this battle of Zutphen at the young age of 31. At the age of 31, that Sidney passed away from this world. He died. He died of gangrene. He joined the Battle of Zutphen, fighting for the Protestant cause against the Spanish. During it, he was shot in the thigh and died of gangrene 26 days later at the age of 31. So this is what is the background to Philip Sidney, a writer, a prominent writer of the age, an important writer. Along with that, he lived a short life. He died at the age of 31. And what inspired these works? The works, particularly the sonnets that he had written, they were inspired. They were addressed to Lady Penelope and dedicated to his wife. So this is what we have. This is what about Sir Philip Sidney. So here we have. You can see on the screen the memorial for Sir Philip Sidney at the spot where he was fatally injured. He was injured, the injury that resulted into his death. That is why he was fatally injured. And the portrait of Sir Philip Sidney, which is there even today at National Portrait Gallery of London. So it is to his soul, to the soul of Sir Philip Sidney, that this poem is addressed. Now about the poet Henry Constable. Henry Constable is born in 1562, and the important he has got the sequence of 23 sonnets, Dinah, written by Henry Constable, and he was a friend of Philip Sidney. Not a very close friendship because we don't have any that kind of record, but they were acquaintances. Both were courtiers, both were involved in political activities. But when it came to religious faith, when it came to the faith, they were poles apart. As Henry Constable converted to the Catholicism, he became a Catholic, whereas Sidney was a Protestant. So that is how they were there, but they were known to each other, and this is what we are sure about it. They was a friend of Sir Philip Sidney, and as I've already told you, that there are 4 sonnets by Henry Constable, which are prefix to Sir Philip Sidney's work, and apology to poetry. And this poem is one of those 4 sonnets. This sonnet that we would be studying is one of those 4 sonnets which are prefixed to Sidney's apology for poetry, which is also known as the defense of poetry. So Henry Constable, born in 1562 and died in 1613, and most of the time of his life he was a rebellious. He was not allowed to enter in England, and because of the conversion of his faith, he tried to do it. He was caught. He was put behind the bars, and most of the time of his manhood, most of the time of his life, he had to spend in jail. So that is the background of Sir Henry, not Sir, Henry Constable. So Henry Constable has addressed this sonnet, a short poem of 14 lines, to Sir Philip Sidney. Now, I'll start with the text. I hope you must be having, however, I have typed the text in my slides, and the next slide is just the beginning, the octave, the first stanza of 8 lines, as I've already told you. Now you see the first stanza of 8 lines, and we see that the rhyme scheme and the structure of Italian sonnet has been followed by Henry Constable here at the beginning of the sonnet. So right at the beginning, he asks for pardon. Give pardon, blessed soul. Who is this blessed soul? Sidney. He's now you see the spiritualism is announced right at the beginning. In the title, we have it: Sonnet to Sir Philip Sidney's soul, not Sir Philip Sidney the person. It is to his soul, and it starts with an apology, with asking for a pardon from the soul of Sir Philip Sidney, which is blessed, away from this world, away from this mundane world, from this earth. It's a blessed soul. So give pardon me to my bold cries, bold, loud, to my loud cries. Suddenly I have come across to know about your death. You are no more in this world. And how is the initial reaction? My bold cries. Lamentation. Lament. And when you lament something, what is lamentation? When you express your sorrow, when you express your grief, either crying, weeping loudly, making noise, shouting, that kind of expression of your sorrow is known as lamentation. And the other kind of, we'll see the other kind of cry as well in the next quatrain, that is the second part of the octave. The first four lines form the first quatrain. In the first quatrain, we have the poet Henry Constable asking for an apology from the blessed soul of Sir Philip Sidney for his bold cries, for his loud cries. Maybe he's creating a lot of noise on coming across the news of the death of his friend Philip Sidney. And he's afraid that my bold cries, if they importune, interrupt thy song, if they importune, if they harass, if they interrupt your song, I know you are there among the angels. I know you are there in the heaven. My friend Philip, my friend Sidney, you are there. And if my bold cries, if the noise that I am making, because I have lost you, because of that, if my bold cries are interrupting thy song, your song, if they importune, harass, HARASS, if they harass, if they interrupt your song, thy is yours, YOUR, which now with joyful notes thou singest among the angel quiristers of the heavenly skies, which now with joyful notes, the song that you are singing there in the heaven, it's a song of happiness. You have been liberated from this world. You have been liberated from this world of struggle. You had faced many difficult moments. So now with joyful notes, now you are happy there. With joyful notes, you are singing among the angel quiristers. Now, who are the quiristers? Quiristers are the members of a band that sings hymns in church or Christmas carols. The people who sing these religious songs, they are quiristers. So the angel quiristers and the group, the band, when they were on the earth, they were singing songs in praise of God. They were singing songs regarding the festive occasion of Christmas, the festival of Christmas. So these people, now they are also a part of heaven. They are angels there, and among their company in their company, you are happy, you are blessed, and you are singing the joyful notes, the songs of happiness among the angel choristers of the heavenly skies in the heaven. You are singing the song in the company of angel choristers. So the soul of Sidney is there, the angels are there, spiritualism everywhere, the characters, they are from the world which is beyond the world where we live in. So heavenly skies, the angels are there, the blessed soul of Philip Sidney is there. Now this is for the first quatrain, the first 4 line of the octave. Octave is a stanza of 4 line, and when divided into 4 lines each, first quatrain and second quatrain. In the first quatrain, we have the first apology, the first pardon that he is seeking from the soul of Sidney. He calls the soul as a blessed soul. You are blessed in heaven, and you are singing joyful notes, joyful songs in the company of angel choristers. And if my bold cries, if they interrupt, if they disturb, if they harass your joyful notes, please pardon me. Now, in the second quatrain of the second part of the octave, give pardon ache again, also, EKE. Again, pardon me for it. Also, give pardon ache, sweet soul. It was blessed soul earlier, now sweet soul. Pardon me, sweet soul, to my slow cries. You see, directly addressed. Sonnet is generally addressed like an ode. Now, ode is longer than sonnet. Ode is too long a poem. Sonnet is a short poem of 14 lines. And as I have told you, the sonnets of Shakespeare, the sonnets of Petrarch, the sonnets of Sidney, the sonnets of Spenser, they all are addressed to their lady loves. So similarly, this sonnet is being addressed to the soul of Sir Philip Sidney. So give pardon also, sweet soul. And the second pardon now I am seeking. The first I had already sought. Now the second one, to my slow cries. I am sad, I am in sorrow, but unable to express. I am suffering silently to my slow cries, that since I saw thee, now it is so long. We haven't met for such a long time. We didn't meet for such a long time, as both of them were moving from one place to another. They were not stationed stable at one place in their short lives, both of them. He died, Henry Constable died at the age of 51. Sidney died at the age of 31. Yeah. So, and they hadn't met for a long time. That since I saw thee, now it is so long. I couldn't see you before your death. For a long, it had been long time had passed. We didn't meet, and yet the tears that unto thee belong, and yet, and still the tears that belong to you. I have a feeling for you. I have an emotion for you. The tears that I have, you deserve some of them. The tears that unto thee belong, that belong to you, to thee, yes, yet they did not sacrifice. To thee, to you, to you, yet, as yet, they did not sacrifice. I haven't sacrificed those tears yet. You deserve those tears. I have a feeling for you. I have lost a friend. I have lost a person whose literature I would enjoy, whose writings I would enjoy. So I have lost you, and I couldn't meet you for such a long time. We haven't met for such a long time. Even before you went away from this world, we didn't meet for a long time. And the tears that I should have shed on your death, I couldn't do that. I couldn't sacrifice them. Perhaps he did not get the news of Sidney at right time, at the time when Sidney had passed away. After a long time, he came to know that Sidney is no more in this world. That might have happened, as I've already told you, that both of them were always moving from one place to another. They were involved in lot of activities. Sidney as a soldier was involved in various battles, and Constable, he was involved in various religious activity, from conversion to Catholic Church, from Protestants, and the things were not very smooth for both of them in the short period, in the short life that they had. So the tears, the feeling that I have for you, but I couldn't shed it on your death. Now those tears I would like to sacrifice, I would like to shed to thee. As yet they did not sacrifice. So these are the first. Now, yeah, here is just an image, an imaginary image of angel Quiristers, the angels who are in the heaven, and the people who were involved in the act of singing hymns and carols on the earth. They have become angels in the heaven, and in their company, the soul of Sidney is singing happy songs. But the emotion, the feeling that the poet Henry Constable had for Sir Philip Sidney, something that he could not express on his death, the tears that he could not shed on his death. Now he wants to shed those tears in the remembrance of his friend Sir Philip Sidney. So this is what we have in the first 8 lines of the sonnet. The first quatrain, as I've already told you in short, as the slide in the slide I've tried to give some points of that. In the beginning of the first quatrain, as the poet begs for an apology from the soul of Sidney. That is the first apology that he is begging, is asking for. And perhaps Sidney is called blessed. He's blessed there in that world. Maybe because he's liberated from this physical world. This is not the kind of world where we are happy. This is not a kind of world, because both were a dissatisfied, both were dissatisfied soul. Henry Constable as well as Sir Philip Sidney. Then both of them were always struggling. If you go to this their biographies, if you study their life, you will find that they have an unstable life, both of them. One thing. Second, he apologizes for his loud cries, and that it is now that I have learned that you are no more in this world, and now I have started expressing my sorrow. So now the cries are loud, and I don't want that my loud cries should disturb your happy songs, interrupt your joyful songs that are being sung in the company of the band of singers. So that is the another thing. And the third, the hint that we get in the first 4 lines of the poem is that Sidney was denied happiness or satisfaction in this world, and so his soul that is liberated is happy in the another world. Perhaps this is what Henry Constable is hinting at. So this is what we have in the first quatrain of the poem. Then in the second quatrain, he again seeks an apology, this time for low cries, and he's bearing the pain of the news of death of Sidney. And as it was quite long, it had been quite long that they had met. Perhaps before the death of Sidney, it was again a long time that he did not seek Sidney, he did not meet Sidney. And even this possibility is there that he got the news of the death of Sidney quite late. Those were not the times of where we had the facilities of communication as we have in these days. We all are in possession of mobiles, and everything is there, internet. So it is easy to communicate now, but in those days there was sometimes the news was conveyed after many days, and so that might have happened in this case. So it has been quite long that they had made, and some time has has elapsed since Sidney had left this world. So immediately at that time he could not shed his tears. He had a feeling for Sidney, He had an emotion for him. Loss of Sidney, he has lost something. But the news he received late, and perhaps it is now late, but still he deserves that kind of remembrance. He deserves the tears of Henry Constable. Sidney deserves it. So the sorrow of passing away of Sidney had brought tears in Constable's eyes. Sidney deserved his tears as remembrance. And the poet perhaps was unaware of his death right at that moment. And because the reason is, the why I'm saying that when the war of Zutphen was being fought, remember, when the war was being fought in Netherlands between the Spain and Holland, the war in which the battle of Zutphen was fought, and in which Sidney participated. That time Constable was at France and later at Poland. So away from England, away from Netherlands, nothing to do with Spain. He was at France and at Poland. And so perhaps he might not have received the news of death of Philip Sidney. Hence, he could not get the news of the death of Philip Sidney immediately at the right time. He got it late. And so this kind of reaction from him, this kind of expression from him. So the octave is over, first 8 lines, and see the rhyme scheme that we have there. See the rhyme scheme in the octave: A, B, A, B, B, A, B, B, A. You can divide it into first quatrain and the second quatrain, stanza of 4 lines each. But the rhyme scheme remains A, B, B, A, B, B, A. That is how the octave is in Italian sonnet. So at the beginning, the octave is there, and octave in octave, the structure of octave is from Italian sonnet. Now, we come to the sestet of the poem, that are the next 6 lines. Now, the sestet of Italian sonnet is divided into stanzas of 3 lines each: CDE, CDE, or CDE, DCD. So whatever, this is how they are known as tercets, TERCETS. The stanzas of 3 lines each. The stanzas of 3 lines each. That is what we have in Italian sonnet. But in English sonnet, the sestet has a quatrain and a couplet. A quatrain, that is the 3rd quatrain of the poem, the first 2 quatrains in the octave. Then sestet has a quatrain and a couplet. Now here, English structure of sonnet is being followed when it comes to the sestet. So in the octave, it was Italian structure that he has followed, and in the sestet, he is following the English structure. So whatever I have told you, I have described you in the particular in the second quatrain. This is what this one line expresses, tells us: I did not know that thou wert dead before. That is W-E-R-E. W-E-R-T is an old English word. Word means word. W-E-R-E. Thou, you. I did not know before that you had died. Perhaps the news came late to him. I did not know that thou wert dead before. I did not feel the grief. I did sustain. Now again uses spiritualism. Somewhere a grief was there, a sorrow was there. I was sad somewhere. I was sustaining. To sustain, to tolerate, to experience. I was experiencing grief. I was feeling sad. I did not feel the grief. I did sustain. I sustained it, but did not feel. I was unable to understand what is the reason that I am sad, for whom I am sad. Some kind of sadness is there inside me. I am feeling for some person. Who's that person? I did not know. Excuse me. So I did not feel the grief. I did sustain. And the grief that I was experiencing, the grief that I was tolerating, it was there inside me. What was the reason for the grief? That I didn't understand. You had left this world. No, I didn't get the news. But still somewhere in my heart, somewhere in my feeling, telepathy, I had this hint, I had this clue that something has gone wrong. Someone of the person whom I love, whom I like, is no more in this world. So I did not feel the grief. I did sustain. Thou were dead before. I did not know. I wasn't aware that you are no more in this world. I felt the grief. I felt the sorrow. But what that sorrow was for, this I don't know. So again, spiritualism is coming in. Another theme of spiritualism. So the greater stroke astonishes the more, surprises the more, shocks, shocks, the greatest, when a person is nearer to you, or the person, when the stroke is, the shock is more greater, and the greater stroke astonishes the more, it astonishes you more, and the greater stroke, the shock astonishes you more. Astonishment, and when you are astonished, surprise. When you are astonished, when you are surprised, what happens? The greater stroke astonishes the more. Astonishment takes from us the sense of pain. It takes away from us the sense of pain, sorrow, sadness, because we are shocked, unable to express sorrow. The grief somewhere takes a back seat. It is overshadowed by astonishment, by the surprise. And that is what happened in your case. The moment I received the news of your death, I was so astonished, I was so surprised. The shock was so severe. It was such a severe shock that the astonishment took away the sense of pain from me. I was surprised. How could this happen to a person who was younger to me, who was only 31? He passed away. He passed away for the cause of protest, for the cause of religion. And the two sects were fighting, Catholics and the Protestants, and the result was the Battle of Zutphen, between the Spain and Netherlands. Spain, Catholics, Netherlands, Protestant, and the result, the battle was fought, and in that battle, Sidney lost his life. So it was a shocking news. I had never imagined that you can pass away this early, at this young age. So that astonishment, that surprise, that severe shock has overshadowed the sense of pain. I am in the state of shock, unable to express my sorrow. That is what he wants to say. I am in the state of shock, unable to express my sorrow. I stood amazed. I stood amazed when others' tears began. The people around me, they cried, they were crying. But I was amazed. I was surprised. Oh, what has happened? And now begin to weep. Now I have started crying, weeping, crying. Now I have begun to weep when they have done, when the others have stopped crying. When the others have stopped crying, perhaps when the others, now they have forgotten you, they have stopped crying for you. When they have stopped crying, now I have started weeping. Now I have started crying for you. And now I still remember you. I still remember you. That is what he wants to say. And now begin to weep when they have done. When they have stopped crying, now the other people around me. When they were crying, I was amazed. I was astonished. I was unable to express my emotion of what loss I had to bear. So that is what was there. But now when others have forgotten you, when they have stopped crying, now I have started crying. I have started crying. That means I haven't forgotten you yet. That is what he wants to convey to the soul of Sir Philip Sidney. And you see the kind of rhyme scheme that we have here, the rhyming words that we have CD, CD. Before more, sustain pain. CD, CD. After octave, we come to sestet, and here we have a stanza of 6 lines. I have given that CD at the end of the line. CD, CD, and it ends with a couplet, begun and done. Begun and done. Couplet is always closed. It closes with a full stop, and so EE is applied there. Now this sestet, this form of sonnet, this structure of sonnet was adopted by the English writers, not by the Italian writers. It was adopted by the English writers. So we have a mixture of a combination of Italian structure and English structure of sonnet in this poem, and that is what makes it a unique poem, makes it a typical poem of Henry Constable, a unique poem of Henry Constable. So the first quatrain, the second quatrain, that makes a octave, the octave, and quatrain and a couplet, that makes the sestet. This is how the 14 lines of the poem are there. The first 8 lines, they are the structure is followed by the poet is of Italian sonnet, and the last 6 lines he has followed the English sonnet. That is what we have about the rhyming scheme, about the theme of spiritualism. It is addressed to the soul. The angels, he is there in the company of the angels. The pain that the poet was feeling, but he didn't understand what the pain is for, unable to express. That is another example where it is a person through some spirituality, through some spiritual relationship between Sidney and Sir Philip Sidney and Henry Constable. So we don't have theme of love as we generally have in sonnets, and which was a particular thing about the sonnets which were composed in the Elizabethan age, because they had followed Petrarch, and the theme of Petrarch was also regarding the same. So about the explanation about the sestet, that is what we have in this slide. The poet expresses his dejection, his disappointment at the fact that he could not know that Sidney had passed away some time back. It was later he came across the news that Sidney was no more in this world. So there was the grief in his heart, the sadness in his heart, but not knowing the reason, that was tolerable. But the moment he came to know that, oh, it is Sidney who has left me alone, who has passed away, he was astonished, and that astonishment overshadowed some sense of pain that he had for the death of Sidney. He could not immediately react to the sad news, as he was too shocked to react to that sad news. People around him, they cried, but he could not cry because of the shock. And when the others have forgotten Sidney and stopped crying, it is the poet who, Henry Constable, who has now started crying in the memory of remembering Sir Philip Sidney. So this is what we have. And now you see, when you study this sonnet, you have to understand the critical regarding the critical analysis of the poem. We have to understand the 3 things here in this sonnet. The first, as all the sonnets, they are addressed to someone. This too has been addressed to the soul of Sir Philip Sidney. But traditionally, we find the sonnets of Italian poets, the sonnets of Petrarch, and the other Elizabethan writers. They were written to celebrate or they were addressed to their lady loves. The Elizabethan sonneteers followed Petrarch, whose sonnets celebrate his love for Laura. So the sonnets of Petrarch are addressed to his lady love Laura, and so the same theme we find in the works of Shakespeare. whose sonnets are addressed to young men. The first 108 sonnets of Shakespeare. So Shakespeare has written 154 sonnets, out of which the first 108 have been addressed to some young man, and the remaining sonnets have been addressed to some black lady. So Spencer has addressed his sonnets to, dedicated his sonnets to Lady Elizabeth Boyle, whom later he married. She became Mrs. Spencer. And even Sidney's sonnets, as I've already told you, they are addressed to Lady Penelope. But she didn't marry Sidney. She married Lord Rich. So, but traditionally, the theme of sonnet is theme of love. But in this sonnet, we find that we don't have theme of love here. It is more of a spiritualism. It is addressed to the soul of some person who has passed away. So the sonnet in Elizabethan age had a particular theme and a particular rhyming scheme, 3 quatrains and a couplet. And that is what it had, 4, 4, 4 and 2. That is what it followed, and not 8 and 6 pattern that the Italians followed. So the Elizabethan age, the theme of the poem, the theme of the sonnet, it was theme of love, addressed to Lady Love, and a particular rhyme scheme was followed. A structure was followed of 3 quatrains, and it ended with a couplet. This is what we have about sonnet in Elizabethan era. But the sonnet that we have studied, here we have a combination of Italian verse, Italian structure. The first 8 line octave, the octave is a structure that he has taken from the Italian sonnet, and the last 6 lines, the sestet with a quatrain and a couplet, he has taken from the English sonnet. So here we have the 2 different forms of the structure of 2 different forms of sonnet being brought together by Henry Constable. And there is no theme of love in this poem. There is no theme of love. It is more spiritual in nature. It is regarding the death of his friend Philip Sidney, Sir Philip Sidney. So this is how this sonnet is different from the other sonnets of that were composed, that were written in the Elizabethan age. The theme of spirituality I have already told you, as the sonnets generally have theme of love, but this sonnet has a theme of spirituality. The title of the poem, that is what brings out the theme of spirituality, addressed to the soul of Sir Philip Sidney and not Sir Philip Sidney. That is the one thing. Sidney is in the company of angels, angel quiristers in the heaven. Another example of spiritualism. The grief that the poet experienced, but was unable to understand the reason for it. Somewhere he was sad, but he was unable to understand the reason for it. That is the another spiritualism. And again, astonishment, surprise, that takes away some of our pain. And when the people around were crying, the poet was amazed, and he cried when the people had stopped crying now. So the theme of spirituality is there in the poem. The combination of Italian sonnet, the structure of Italian sonnet and English sonnet is there. The rhyming scheme, that is important. And so it is a different sonnet from the Elizabethan, the kind of sonnets which were written during the Elizabethan age. That is the one conclusion we have drawn. Another, a combination of 2 different rhymes. Third, the theme of spirituality. These are the 3 things that you have to remember. Now, these are some reading material that I have prepared. Now, I'll just go slide by slide. Now, I can't explain it. I don't have enough time. I think it's already 1 o'clock. So I'll just show you the slides, and in case you feel a need for it, you can download it from the YouTube channel. This is the introduction to the poem. This all I have explained to you in my lecture. All has been explained to you. But just a reading material, something that you can use to answer, to attempt the long answer questions in your examinations. Let's see what kind of pattern is followed by the university in the next exam. We are not sure about it, whether it will be MCQ or the traditional pattern. Let's see what happens. So this is the introduction to the sonnet. This is the explanation of the first quatrain of the octave, first 8 lines. The first 4 lines have been explained here in this slide. I'll keep it for a while so that in case you want to download it later, you can do it. You can. This is second quatrain, first and second quatrains after introduction. The sestet, the fourth slide. It means the sestet is made of the third quatrain and a couplet. Remember, 4 and 2, 6 lines. The last 2 lines, they are couplet. Couplet was never employed, never used by, never applied by the Italian writers. It was the English writers who introduced couplet in sonnet. This is the answer about rhyme scheme that has been used by Henry Constable. You have to do 3 answers for the long answer question. Rhyme scheme, this is the one. In the previous slides, I have just explained the text. Now from here, the critical analysis is there. The rhyming scheme that has been used. Here, how this poem, this sonnet is different from the sonnets that we had in the Elizabethan age. How is this one different from the regular sonnets of the Elizabethan age? That is what we have here. And the last is the theme of spiritualism. The theme of spiritualism in this sonnet. Generally, sonnets, they have theme of love, but here in this sonnet, we have the theme of spiritualism. So, thank you. In case you have any questions, you are welcome. Well, yeah, I'll go back to the organizers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving the detailed explanation of the poem Sonnet to Sir Philip Sidney's Soul by Henry Constable. Thank you so much. You have covered all the important aspects of the poem. Dear students, thank you to you too for a very enthusiastic response for this course. We will meet tomorrow again with the new session and with the new resource person. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.